know how we connect to the TVs?
I'm not even gonna lie to you, I have no idea.
Whose computer is this?
I don't know that either. I know Carjo and Uncle Jay were in there earlier, so it's set up. All they have to do, I think, is just hit a button.
Okay.
And you should be good to go.
No, I don't know. I left both my laptops at home, so that's great.
Shoot, I have no stickers on that. I'll take the cover off.
Okay. What was the you guys plug this in? And I'm really sorry. I'm like still really sleep deprived too.
You go get mine.
Hi, we're here for the interest meeting.
Awesome. Y'all can just sit wherever you want.
One second.
Wait, don't we have to use that?
That's for the live stream. But then this is to play the PowerPoint up there.
Okay. Okay. I guess I'll do it. Can you take? Can you take? After this, you will literally just read off the slide. Okay. Is that fine?
Presenting it?
Can you do that? Yeah. You just have to read that. And you can use that sheet of paper.
Okay. Are our election dates on here? I was thinking about that earlier. So I put through and I didn't see one, but I can add them on there really quick.
Yeah, here. You can go.
Sign language. Oh, sorry. No, it's okay.
I was thinking speech path when I read sign language.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a health administration major and I'm just taking it for fun. I'm pretty far ahead like in credits, and so my workload is really hard this semester, so I just really wanted something fun. Yeah. But it's been really fun so far.
I was originally going to do speech path here.
Yeah.
And so I plan on learning it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun, and like the professor's kind of weird, but he's really nice. Like, sorry, my glasses. He means really well. He just has very bad jokes. But it's been a lot of fun. It's more difficult than I thought it would be, but I like it because I feel like I'm learning. You know.
Yeah. I learned really very little
Yeah. When I started, like, I've only been to 2 classes so far, but when I started, I knew the alphabet. But now, like, we learned, like, 30 sentences already. Like, it's super fast. It's really easy to catch up on, and a lot of things are reused, too. Are y'all freshmen?
Yeah.
That's good.
hear about the interesting things. Oh, good. Oh, yeah. I tried to tell as many people as I could at Common Race, but I don't remember everybody that I saw, so. I feel like that's like a really personal connection. I'm just glad that y'all are here listening.
I was gonna say, yeah. And I was like, okay, Eric, what's up? I was like, okay, well, walk over there, she sleeps with her phone, held up, in her hands.
He's our assistant vice president of finance. So he's not a part of the student government, but he works for the student government. If that makes sense. Kind of. He's the assistant to our vice president of finance. Named Ryan. How do you know Jacob?
We have children and such.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's awesome. I don't know. He's in his office right now.
How are y'all?
All right.
I don't have the exact
Oh.
they're off my calendar, but I don't have them. How the results meeting and the retreat.
So, elections.
When is the election meeting?
Is there anything else on that? I just think I was not really good. No, because every time they do, I just put like 2 things on there because I just talk about it. Run officer.
And the election results. And the election meeting for New York. Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
It does have.
It does. Oh, the retreat. You're right. Well, we can keep it in the office. Guess I'll just put it right there. I don't know where else to put it.
I would have done the majority of the work.
So what's your next step?
I'll go to UCA.
Is, wait, aren't you a student?
No, I'm just confident.
I never did something.
Huh?
I said I never did something.
Yeah. That's good, but we'll see.
So that's essentially how we asked me how to do it.
Oh, good.
And I was like, I'll just do it. I was watching Sam Train. I thought,
That's pretty cool. How was y'all's first week of classes? Well, kind of, first 3 days, 4 days of classes. Good.
Oh, Will. Doing good. How are y'all?
Hi. Okay. Oh, wait.
Do we have these for us?
And I need to go ahead and get the first executive committee too, right?
really, this is pretty much.
What's that?
Yeah.
Never.
Well, yeah, and then whenever you do it for the freshmen.
Somewhere.
You're good to go.
And she's not gonna be here, right? She's at meeting.
Hello? Hey. Yeah, usually everybody sits in, including everyone's, visitors are complete, and then they'll go out to a meeting while everybody
It's only Tuesday.
And then after, like we'll share any announcements that need to be private, and then
Are
we'll
you?
come back and enjoy the rest of the meeting. Yeah, someone will like, we need to, count off enough. rows.
Yeah, I don't know what she wants us to do with that.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay, we'll make sure that everyone's good. Do you mind making, index cards with the groups? How do you do that? Okay, perfect. All right, thanks. Yes. It's something that might be easier than texting if you have to make a form, then just have them go out. And then we can. Oh, okay. Okay. All right, sounds good. All right, well, if you need anything, all right, just
Is this an interesting
Okay.
thing?
Yes, it is.
Bye.
If you want to grab one of these, and if you want
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here's a pen. Does anyone else need something? Here's a pen.
I like it.
I was thinking, I was like, my roommate was in the shower. I was like, here, it's like he runs out. You know, he's out the shower. Wake up. So we leave, and we come back, and I'm already like, this one was like, what are y'all doing? I was thinking that was true. I was, well, that was all of it. I was like, apparently it smelled like that grease stuff that was right under it. I only got some problem. Oh. And so the police department said that proper grease is still, as chief came up here saying about talking. It's like, it's part of the safety shower, there's no way. Like, I know short, you said short bedding, like, hairspray and that, so this is.
In Carmichael, but like multiple girls were taking showers at the same time. Back in the day.
I said the
How'd
first
y'all
one.
hear about the interest meeting? I'm curious.
Hershey.
About y'all.
Instagram.
Hey.
That's what she wanted to
What
hear.
about Twitter? Should we get started? Hi. Oh, I always do that after. And that case.
Are we supposed to take one of these?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to just like.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hello? UCA SGA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go ahead and grab one.
Which
Devin should be in the business. Oh, Devin, is that possible?
What's good? How y'all doing?
The one's out the door for printing.
So, just for those of y'all that are already here, we started a new thing this year where we'll be live streaming all of our meetings. And so we'll be live streaming this interest meeting just as like a test run. So if anyone is like uncomfortable with ending up on our live stream, please let me know. You might not even be on it. We just have to look at like the positioning of our camera, but right now it's on me.
And maybe like 4 people will actually see it. So there's comfort.
Yeah, so it looks like in the purple, you over.
Should we leave it right there?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So,
Come on.
Was that? It's just.
No.
I think it's going. It's been going.
Wait, really? You're just making it so
Was that?
it's on your YouTube.
Oh, wait, it says start and stop recording.
But there's a start recording and a stop streaming option. Oh, we're live right now.
Oh, hi.
What's that? How do we check?
I went to YouTube and it says live.
Are you watching it? Yeah.
That's so loud.
Yeah, there's a 7-second lag.
Isn't that weird?
That is so weird.
I feel like that's more than 10 seconds. Hey, Margaret, do you want to grab one of these? Wait, will you just move this stuff right here so we can bounce over this camera?
So how do I sign in?
No,
Oh.
no, just grab one.
Oh.
Hi. Hi. Do you mind coming grab
So,
one?
like,
Yeah.
it's something where you go left and like 7 seconds, you know, maybe.
No, I'm just kidding.
Sometimes real bad. Yeah.
Probably get super loud, so I'll just hang out everybody.
Hey. Thank you.
Well, I didn't know him, but at the a lot alike.
All right.
Hi.
Look at that. Just welcome. You can see one of those little papers.
Sorry.
See, and we got
Sorry,
like
guys.
the cord or whatever. We have like a 50-foot cord for this, so we can hang it up there and run it through here.
It's literally.
All right, let's get this sucker cranking.
Okay. Okay. Hello, welcome to the 2017 interest meeting for this semester for the Student Government Association. We'll start with introductions.
Hi, my name is Hershila Lalu, and I am the president for this year. Our vice president, she normally sits here. Her name is Carly Jo Riggins. She's not able to be here, but.
I'm Megan McAfee. I'm the vice president of operations.
Ryan Pfaff, vice president of finance.
All right, so let's get started. We're all very happy that you can come. So SGA stands for the Student Government Association. There's a picture of us at one of our main spring events called Day at the Capitol. And so SGA really initiates a lot of projects on campus. So some of them include leadership benches. The big event was started through SGA. The Hyper Center renovation was an initiative by SGA a few years ago. The UCA Amphitheater is here because of SGA. There's lactation suites throughout buildings on campus. Another project of SGA, just a lot of different things that we sponsored. Our most recent was the hydration stations that you'll see around campus, and the places where you can fill up your water bottle. Those were just put in place by SGA this last semester, so we're really excited about those too.
And the sound system in Idlewater. A lot of events that are held in Idlewater. Sound quality was pretty low, and so we helped get new microphones, a new soundboard, new speaker system. So there's a lot of like Greek life events that happen in there, and the sound was terrible.
Yeah.
Did she a couple blocks?
So like a lot of these projects were like just started by constituents, just like students every day that see problems or something they need on our campus, and they bring it to SGA, and then we put a committee on top of it, and we get the work done. So these are the biggest things that we've accomplished. And so SGA is ran by general election, and so there are multiple positions that are elected. So for the freshman class, there's a freshman class president, vice president, and then 5 representatives. And then for the rest of the fall, there's also representatives for each of the sophomore, junior, and senior classes. Those executive committee positions, which are referring to the president and vice president, were elected in the spring. So we already have that executive committee. We're just waiting on the freshmen to complete it. And then past the class representation. There's also different representatives for the different colleges, as well as a non-traditional representative, and then graduate representation and international representation. So this past year on SGA, we made an entity of SGA called SGA Graduate. And so that's kind of their own governing body under SGA, and so they will be providing the 3 SGA graduate positions. And so within SGA, there is a time commitment. So we have weekly Senate meetings on Mondays. They start at 5, and we usually ask that senators have 5 to 8 p.m. blocked off, just in case one goes long, or you never know what visitors will be coming. We usually have a visitor at least one every week. That can be anyone on executive staff, someone just within UCA. It's just really whoever wants to come and speak to us, they're always invited. And we also have an open forum for students to come speak to. So we never really know exactly how long those meetings are going to last, but we ask you to take off 5 to 8. And then from there, our senators are put on different committees. So they're put on a standing committee, a gold committee, and a university committee. So just depending on the different committees, depends on the time commitment. So some of those university committees are as needed, so they only meet when they get an appeal or something like that, but others are weekly. So it just depends on your committee and the time commitment of those. But I personally always kind of say that SGA requires 3 committee meetings and a Senate meeting during your week. So it is a time commitment, but it's something that's very rewarding and very present as it's happening. So I'm not a stagnant person at all. I have to be constantly improving, constantly doing something, or I blatantly get bored. And so to be on SGA and see change happening and progression constant is just something that is really, really fun to me. And then we also have the outside prep work that comes for the Senate meetings, like reading the previous notices or doing your research on a topic that we'll be debating that next week. And then we also host special events put on by different committees like our diversity committee, and we really encourage all of our senators to attend those as well. Any questions about the time commitment? So the way that our Senate is, I guess, comprised is an executive board, an executive committee, and then a general Senate. And so on the executive board are these 4 positions, minus Carla Jo right now. So you have the president, the vice president of operations, and the vice president of finance. And then under there you have the executive committee, which is made up of all the class presidents and vice presidents and committee chairs. So these are just kind of like an example of a typical week for an SGA senator. So on Monday night, that senator would go to the full Senate meeting. And then depending on those different committees, they might have a housing exemption committee on Tuesday during next period, a diversity committee on Wednesday afternoon, and then additional work for the diversity committee will take place on Thursday. And then a special event would be something like Safe Walk, which we do every year with the UCA Police Department. So that would be an example of a special event that you want to go to that week as well.
And not every week will necessarily be this packed. Sometimes you have a super busy week when you actually have something like a special event going on. Some weeks you might have 1 committee meeting, others you might have 3 or 4. It just kind of depends. So it's kind of up in the air because a lot of the committees are university committees, so there's faculty and staff, so there's kind of some scheduling that goes into that as well.
Yeah, and slow me down if I'm going too fast. If you have any questions, this is really kind of chill and relaxed, so don't be afraid to ask. So my personal favorite thing about SGA is the connections and the senator bonding that happens. I have multiple friends like these 2 up here and Carla Jo that's usually up here with us, but I don't think I would have ever met them outside of SGA, and it's something that really connects a lot of people. We have a lot of SGA alum who really enjoy giving back as well. So we host an alum cookout for them, and they just like to come and see the progress that we're making within the school year. And SGA connections are something that lasts a lifetime. And so we really like that. And then there's also some perks of working for SGA or in SGA, like sweatshirts in this picture, and these awesome name tags. And this is the polo for this year, designed by yours truly. Okay, so the big thing coming up is elections, which I'm sure you're all here to learn a little bit about. So a mandatory election rules meeting will take place on September 5th at 5 p.m. And so we ask that anyone that is applying for SGA has their application turned in by 4:30 that day. Applications come out today after this meeting, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's at midnight. They come out tonight at midnight. And then once you get that application turned in, a mandatory meeting. And if you cannot make this meeting, you can send someone in your place. So they will present themselves as, hi, I'm here representing Joe Schmo, kind of thing. And then there's the general election will take place September 11th and 12th. And then we will have the initial election results meeting on September 12th at 5 p.m. So everybody will come back into the chambers. It's not mandatory, but then we'll read the announcement of the elections, who won each position, and the number of votes in those positions as well. And then depending on that, it must be a majority of the vote. And so if there are multiple candidates and no one receives a full majority, that position will then go into a runoff election. So that runoff election will take place on September 14th and 15th. And then the final election results will be announced the 15th as well. And then we have our mandatory retreat, September 15th through the 17th. So we'll leave that Friday afternoon and return that Sunday morning. You have a question?
Yes. What is the difference between the regular elections and is there a difference between the way the two different elections are run off, the regular and the runoff?
That's a good question. So I believe there are a few kind of rules that what would you say, restart. So for instance, you'll learn at the election rules meeting that you can only have a certain number of materials, and that kind of resets for the runoff. So ultimately they're set up the same exact way. It's a general election. It's the same amount of time for the runoff election for voting. However, there's not a lot of campaign time in between. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Is there any other questions about these dates?
When is the application due?
Yeah, so on the day of the election rules meeting, September 5th, it's due at 4, or is it 4:30? 4 p.m.
It'll be on the application, and the application is available through OrgSync, which is kind of like the all portal that UCA uses, all the organizations, and so it'll be on there, the start time and the ending time as well.
Yeah, and I'll be sharing the link to those applications on our Twitter as well. So if you don't follow our Twitter or Instagram, I'm doing my daily plug. It's UCA_SGA, and so you can find all of our updates there as well. Any other questions about these dates?
If I absolutely cannot make the retreat, would you say that I shouldn't bother running for the position? Like if I have another thing planned for that time?
Okay.
Unfortunately, the retreat is absolutely mandatory to be on SGA. That's when we kind of go through the inner workings of SGA and our constitution and bylaws and stuff. And so that's
pretty much the meat of where you'll learn everything. Question?
Is the retreat here in Conway or is it somewhere else?
No, it is at a secret location, but it is driving distance, and we take UCA buses.
Oh.
yeah. So you'll be provided with transportation from UCA to there.
They're usually pretty fun.
Okay.
We go over a lot of material, but we try our best to make sure that it's not just a boring retreat that you're just getting overloaded.
And there's a lot of time for Senator Bondi.
It was fun.
Oh.
Sorry. Any questions about the dates or about retreat?
Or anything in general?
Yeah, so I deleted the side that said questions questionnaire on accident, but are there any questions at all? This is the time for you to learn about the ins and outs. Yeah.
Okay, so on the freshman thing, it says 0 to 29 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm a freshman in the fact that I've only just started school, but I have more than 29 hours.
Yes.
Concurrent,
Mm-hmm.
you would run it as a freshman.
Yeah.
So it's UCA hours.
We recently passed legislation, I would say the year before last, that took place last year, that said that any credit for becoming freshmen would not count. So that's a good question, what she's asking is like, I came in with 21 hours, and so by the time my currently enrolled hours were put in, I had to run my first year as a sophomore, which stinks because I was a freshman and I didn't know any sophomores. And so we made that alteration to our constitution to allow you to run in your actual class with your actual friends and students as well. Yeah. Any other questions?
Just another little side note. So when you look at all the positions, you may qualify for multiple. So if you are a freshman who is a health education major, but you are also an international student, you would qualify to run for any of the freshman class rep spots, as well as president and vice president. You could run for the College of Health and Behavioral Sciences, or you could run as the international representative. And so with those three choices, when you fill out the application, unfortunately you will have to pick one, and so you can only run for one of those positions. So kind of make sure you go over them and think about which one you would like to do, because at the end of the day you can only run for one spot.
Yeah.
So is freshman class representative, is that like study on the Senate, is that what it is?
Yeah, so that would be a part of like the general Senate that I was referring to. So each class has 5 representatives. There we go. And so that makes up like the general Senate. But we all work together during Senate meetings and on committees. That just helps us because we have like different meetings for those executive positions as well.
Yeah. Are the expectations for each position explained in your website, or?
That's a really good question. I will.
So the expectations for each position kind of vary based off of what committees you're on. So Senate, which meets on Mondays at 5, is like the opportunity for everybody, like this whole chamber, all chambers are full, and that's where we kind of go over everything that we do outside of Senate. And so your expectations really lie in what you do outside of Senate. So if you're on a really active committee, then your expectation is that you'll be active on that committee and do, essentially as you're instructed. So you'll typically have the chair of the committee, and they're in charge of, your goals, et cetera, that you'll set at like the retreat. So your expectations kind of follow along that. If you happen to be on, like SAFA, so that's the committee that I chair, we only go for 2 weeks. We only meet for 2 weeks, but in those 2 weeks, we meet for like 30 hours. So your expectations then are that you were there for all of that. And then once you're done, you're done. So a lot of committees meet once every week, whereas, that committee will meet very heavily for 2 weeks.
So it doesn't matter if you're like a senior representative or a college of business, everybody's together in the committee? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Yeah. How are the committees chosen? Like, how are you placed on the committee? Or do you choose which one you want to be on? Or how does that work?
So usually it's kind of like a mix of two. So you can give your preferences. We might ask for your preferences of which ones you would like to be on, and then we just kind of put everyone on them. That's why we have the different positions that we do, because we try to make it a mix of everyone. So having one person from each class, and then all of the college representatives will automatically go into the academic affairs committee. And so it just varies. So you can give us your preference of which ones you'd want, and then we take those into consideration and place you accordingly.
And at the retreat, there's like an entire day where we dedicate like talking about all the standing committees, where the chairs, which are usually us, will go around and we'll talk about each of them, so you can have an idea of what all of it entails, so you have a better idea of, okay, yeah, I actually do like that. And then whenever we hand out the preference cards, again, that's when you kind of write it down. There are some stipulations in our Constitution, which, if you're elected, will give you, basically a big old packet that says, this is all the stuff that goes into SGA, and then the retreat is about kind of dissecting it and explaining it. And some of those committees have specifications, like, there has to be one freshman, one sophomore, one junior, one senior rep for each of them, and then like one academic college rep, one graduate rep, one international rep, that kind of stuff. So there are some specifications, so we have to work around that. So But we typically try to like acknowledge people's preferences and also build like, again, diverse committees, but also committees that we know that the people are going to do well on and serve well for.
This just ensures that we don't have like 20 people on the PR committee and like 2 on this other committee, if that makes sense.
So how's y'all's accountability system set up?
In regards to what?
Okay, so like I look at this board right here and I see like all the things that are labeled in the committee's names. So like say the Christian right here, or we're both on a committee and like we have another meeting we have to go to, we didn't go, but we let it go. So like y'all like we get the merits and things like that for it. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
all of our, like our whole demerit system is lined out in our constitution, and that can be found on WorkSync on the SGA website as well. So if you want to read that ahead of time and kind of see like how things work, feel free. It's on there for a reason. So
We're not like vicious. Like,
Oh yeah.
There's obviously stuff that interrupts, and like there's meetings that'll be during classes because faculty and staff like to make their meetings whenever they can, and so sometimes it's during when students have class. So if you can't go, you try and reach out to somebody and say, hey, you know what for me, that kind of stuff.
any other questions?
So the election rules meeting that happens before election starts?
Yes. And so the way that works is you come to the rules meeting, and if you're not there or if someone to represent you is not present, then you cannot run in the election. And so then that's where you learn all of the rules for the elections, and then you draw your place on the ballot as well.
And that's also before election starts, you have to get all your campaign materials approved. And so prior to that election rules meeting, you can't have any of those materials like circulating around or anything of that sort. So right after that meeting is when you'll be able to get it approved, and there'll be us four as well as our exec committee that will be able to approve it.
What time is the meeting on the general election meeting? What time is that?
And at that like general election meeting, sometimes people can't make it, but it's mandatory for you to be there. But if you can't make it, you're allowed to have someone come like as a representative of you. So say if I'm running for a spot, I've got to be at work at 5. So I send May, and May comes and she essentially just signs for me and registers and picks like a number to be on the ballot and stuff, and that's totally okay.
Whoever you send, if you plan on sending someone, make sure you give them your student ID number, because that's something that we ask for as well.
What's your question?
What was my question? It was, oh, the rules. Is that on your site, or do we have to find out about them at the meeting? Like, can we review them beforehand so we can start preparing beforehand?
That's a good question.
Is there a page in the Constitution?
Some of them are referred to in the Constitution, but it's a pretty black and white, like, a list of rules. I can add those to our website within the next few hours, and so that way you can refer to them. But ultimately, they're really just like things like no taping up posters on glass, like things like that. And so it's stuff that you shouldn't have to worry about until after you have your campaign materials approved anyway. That makes sense, yeah. Any questions? I think
Just one more.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Do you suggest we have our campaign materials prepared before the meeting?
That's up to you. So personally, I did not, when I was running as a freshman, I had no idea what I was doing, and I did not have any materials ready, and that's okay.
So when do we have before the 10th? I guess we have between the 5th and the 10th to get those approved?
Yes.
Okay.
And so sooner better than later, just because, thinking of any election, you want to be campaigning for as much time as possible. So to be able to campaign every day that's available would be the best option.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you don't have them ready to go, that's okay, because we'll be able to approve materials at any time. It's not just that one day.
You get as soon as that election meeting is out, you're allowed to start campaigning.
Okay.
As long as your material has been approved, which again we'll talk about at that meeting specifically. So if you have stuff available, or like if you're going to get it printed from like Conway copies, something like that, and you need to know specifications, then emailing Megan or something, or if that goes up, so you can kind of start building what you know. But your stuff also has to be approved by the election rules committee, and that committee won't start approving things until after the meeting. So it's to, again, make sure that everybody is, given the exact same opportunity. So you kind of have to work with the system.
Yeah. And speaking of my copies, they have offered a 10% off discount to all students running in the UCA SGA elections. So if you want to use them, there's 10% off discount. And I think you can just mention that at the counter and they'll approve it. That's new this year. I'm excited. Any other questions? Okay, I think Ryan wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, real quick, sorry.
No, you're fine.
The election, it has to be approved by the elections committee. Is there gonna be someone in the office at all times, or
So
we have to
it'll-
like call and make sure that someone's here?
So it'll be like, I think, 5 to 7 of us, I believe. And you could just send it, like, you could just text it to me and I would reply. You can email it and we can reply
Oh,
that
so it doesn't
way.
have to be written on there like you do for the student center posters?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So something that is good to think about is making like a Twitter account or an Instagram account or a Facebook page. Nothing can be posted and no one can be followed on that page until it's approved. So you could always like follow the UCA SGA Twitter or Instagram and like DM me and say like, can I get this page approved? And then once I apply with approved, you can start following people and posting as well. Yeah.
So it only takes about like, I think most people reply within like 2 to 3 hours. And so the response time is pretty quick on that.
All right, yeah. So we've kind of talked a lot about like the committees and everything that we've done. Obviously, my job deals primarily with finance, so I'm just going to kind of give a brief overview of what we do. So whether you know it or not, every single one of y'all is paid $15.50 worth of a student activity fee. And that money is compiled into one big pot that is then allocated to SGA. And what I do with that is I break that down based off of our constitution. And $2 goes towards our readership program. If you're not familiar with the readership program, it's what provides USA Today, New York Times, Arkansas Democrat Gazette, those newspapers on campus, physical copies so that students in the College of Business or whatever, if they've got to do homework using one of them. So we help provide that. And then we have general operations account, which is stuff that runs like the office over here. So if you've never worked around a printer, they're remarkably expensive machines. We have to rent that from Canon. And so we pay for that for the students so that they can have free printing. In case you don't know, you also have $5 worth of printing every semester that you can use at the library. I think it's like 5 cents a page or something, but it's free up here, 25 pages every day. I'll go ahead and tell you now, there are some days when the printer goes down, because again, we're busy almost all day long, and the machine can only take it so much, so there are some days where we have to kind of close up shop so it can't come in and repair. But we also pay for that as well. So that's kind of what the fee goes to. And then the largest portion is called, it goes into the SAFA account, and that's called the Student Activity Fee Allocation. And what that is any RSO on campus, so a registered student organization, is allowed to apply for SAFA funding. So it's kind of easy to think of it as like if you're writing a grant to the government for money, that's essentially what SAFA is. And so, is anybody else in like a different organization already? All right, what's your word?
Project X.
Okay, so is that with BMAC?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so say BMAC, which is Black Male Achievement Challenge, as an organization is wanting to host an event during Welcome Week of like next year, okay? Then what they can do is they can come to, or they can go on OrgSync and they can apply for money. And they basically say, this is what we want to do, this is how much it's going to cost. And so I kind of look at the budget, and then we hold a hearing, and they're allowed to come in and present their case on why they think that they deserve this money. Any student organization is allowed to do exactly that. And then there's a whole committee, that's based of senators that are sitting on SGA. So there'll be like freshmen through senior, and then additional senators that sit on that. And we discuss, did they present well? Is the goal of what they're trying to host going to benefit campus, stuff like that. And then we decide on how much we want to allocate them. And so we're able to use large amounts of money to host and fund UCA events that are directly for student initiatives. It can be anything from going to a conference in like California to just hosting a concert here on like a Friday night with your organization. I mean, there's really, there aren't a lot of limits on what you can do. Obviously there are some, but that's kind of what I do. And then we get to work with, again, all of these projects. So helping fund all those things that you saw up there is essentially what we're able to do with all of that money. If you're familiar with like your student council and stuff from high school, this is a lot different. You know, we have quite a bit of resources at our disposal, and so we try and use that to the best of our abilities. So that's kind of what I do. It's pretty exciting. A lot of it's a lot of nasty, grimy paperwork, but stuff like the committees, like the finance and staffing committees, they're pretty fun. They're pretty intensive, but it's remarkable real world experience because you're actually dealing with physical money. And so I encourage y'all, if you're a part of other organizations and they're not familiar with SAFA, just mention the name, let them know where to find the SGA office, stuff like that. Because again, the money is from y'all to be used on y'all. So it's kind of like buying a lottery ticket, and if you're in an organization that gets a lot of money, then you're getting a pretty big reward. So use it wisely, and if you get on Senate or SAFA.
Any other questions about SAFA, elections, SGA in general, at all? Anything else? Okay, well, each of us have offices within the suite, the SGA suite, and so most of us have, not me, we have our office hours posted outside of our door. I'll get to that. And so anytime you have any questions or just want to learn more about SGA, you can email us. We also have our business cards up front on the front desk if you want to pick one up, or come see us during our office hours. We'd love to answer any questions you have, anything at all. So if there are no other questions, this concludes our informational session.
I do. I don't need it for this though.
Yeah.